The last 24 or 36 months, if you've been in tech, and even at the highest echelons of tech, it's been really difficult. There's lots of churn, there's layoffs, you said something about people worrying about losing their jobs to AI. And there's this sense that it's a zero-sum game, right? Either the AI wins and it takes my job, or I can block the AI from coming into my company as long as I can so I continue to learn and have my job. And what we want to do is think of it as a friendlier, more collaborative tool that's going to help humans have a better work and personal life. We want to move away from this concept of who wins, the AI wins or the human wins. I think we really win when we come together and take the best of what we all bring to the table.
Did you know that despite making up 50% of sellers, women hold just 30% of the sales leadership roles? It's not a pipeline problem. That's a promotion problem. Welcome to the Women in Sales Leadership podcast, where we make the new rules of success for high-performing women in sales. And I'm your host, Amy Evans, sales leader turned executive coach. After 25 years in the trenches at Salesforce, EDP, and startups, I now help ambitious sales managers step into second-line leadership roles. If you are ready to lead with authority, earn what you're worth, and make a bigger impact, you are in the right place. Click follow so the next episode will be waiting for you. Welcome back to Women in Sales Leadership. I'm your host, Amy Evans, and today's guest is a true trailblazer, Dr. Mary Shea. Mary is the co-founder and chief growth officer of Meerkat, an agentic AI-powered conversation navigator that helps teams turn every conversation into real momentum. But Mary's story does not begin with AI. Most of our stories don't begin with AI, by the way. She first built a career as a professional oboist, performing all around the world, Mexico City, Guadalajara, Boston, and Rome. And from there, she made a logical pivot into sales, becoming a leading analyst at Forrester, and then served as a chief evangelist at Outreach, and later a co-CEO at Mediafly. And now she is stepping boldly into the AI startup world. Mary, I am so excited you're here today.
Amy, it's so wonderful to be here and to meet your audience virtually. And thank you so much for that really kind and thoroughly researched bio.
Well, I'm going to make you talk about some of it. That's why we're here.
Absolutely.
So your background is unlike a lot of people in tech. I know a lot of musicians in tech. So there's rock stars and classical stars all over in tech. I've found them. But let's start with where you began your career in the music world, because I'm confident it really sets the stage and informs a lot of how you think today. How did your career as a professional musician shape the way you approach business and leadership?
Wow. Well, it's been many years since I played in the Guadalajara Symphony in Mexico, the second largest city in Mexico. And I had a wonderful career as a musician. And I feel really grateful because I got to live my dream when I was 21. And I traveled abroad. I played all over the world, and I traveled all over Mexico, and it was a wonderful life. At a certain point, I kind of felt like I wanted a bigger playing field, and that's what brought me into the business career. But to really answer your question, there's so many things about being a musician, and I'm also a musicologist, so I have a PhD in musicology and ethnomusicology. And I think to reach those echelons, both in academia as well as a performing artist, you have to have a lot of discipline. And so I'm a fairly disciplined person. I put in the time since I was 12 years old as a musician. I practiced, I learned, I went to school, I got multiple degrees. So first and foremost, I think it's that commitment of day in, day out, you show up even when you don't feel like it. And that served me really well in business. The other thing I think that served me well was, as an oboist, you're sort of the boss of the woodwind section, right? You're the leader of the woodwind section. You have the concert mistress or concert master, and then you have the oboist who tunes the orchestra. And so I think from an early age, I loved the leadership piece of things, and bringing folks along and influencing folks and bringing them on a collective journey. And businesses even more so than music from that perspective. The
Yeah.
final thing I think is just a continuous quest for learning and trying to, learn new things. Like right now, I'm learning everything I could possibly learn about AI. I'm learning more about design. I'm taking a class to learn Canva. And so constantly trying to attain the best level that you can be of yourself. All of those things serve you extraordinarily well in business. And I will say, I've met a lot of musicians in business and a lot of PhDs in business, and people have successfully made those pivots.
Yeah. It's no surprise to me. Wow. Um, let's talk about from music to sales into AI.
Sure.
That's got to be an interesting arc. And you talked about this drive of growth and constant learning is what I just heard, and mastery. Now at Meerkat, you're helping create something truly new. Everybody is, and from where I sit, right, everybody's trying to navigate AI. We're all trying to figure out how do I use it for myself? How do I use it without losing my own authenticity, my own voice, and find a way to maximize without really replacing myself with this like diluted version that sounds kind of like everybody else.
Right.
Let's talk into this current chapter and talk about what you're doing at Meerkat. For those who haven't heard of Meerkat, which it's perhaps likely, can you share what it is and why it's needed right now in this moment that we're all in together?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've really surfaced up so many threads that we could go in a range of different directions. But let me tell the audience about Meerkat. I'm really excited about it. So Meerkat is part of this new and emergent technology category that we call AI teammates. And if you think about an LLM or agents, usually what's happening is you're interacting one-to-one, the way you might with a co-pilot or with a chatbot, right? But with Meerkat is joining your team. It becomes an extension of your team, a virtual member of your team. So it joins meetings. It could join a setting like we're in today. It can join chats, and it sits across a range of tools that you use in the business world for communication, whether that's Zoom or Meet or Slack or HubSpot for CRM, for example. And so Meerkat will sit on top of all of those tools, so you don't have to jump in and out every time you want to find an insight or do some research. And then Meerkat will also extract, for example, common connections that you and I have in LinkedIn. So if Meerkat were with us today, we might say, hey, Meerkat, show me all of the connections that Mary and Amy have together on LinkedIn and surface the top 5 for Mary to recommend that Amy bring on her podcast. And Meerkat will say, okay, here you go. And in 2 seconds, you've got it. And then the beautiful thing is we can continue to ask Meerkat in this conversation, and we can follow up with a collaboration over a DM, message, email to continue whatever it is we want to talk about and coordinate with. And so it'll give you to-do list, action items, and it's super fun. One of the things that we're really focused on at Meerkat is bringing the joy back into the work world. And Meerkats are a wonderful way to spark that joy and collaboration.
Okay. All right. You said a lot there. I'm going to have to dig into a minute if you don't mind.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. So you painted this picture of this teammate that is going across platforms.
Right.
Which in my experience of my, growing usage of AI, right? I'm probably using AI the way most people in business are using it today, right? I have a question, I'm researching, maybe I even go so far as to upload a document, ask for a rewrite, what have you. You're talking about having something that's sitting across platforms. This is something that I haven't heard other tools doing before. Is that Are there other companies that are trying to achieve this right now? And tell me a little bit more about just the overall concept of how this works.
Yeah. So, we're on a little bit of an AI gold rush right now. So the beautiful thing about AI is that almost anyone can start a company. And so I think you're going to see more and more startups than we've ever seen before for a range of different reasons, which we can go into if you like. But, it's essentially got a range of differentiators. So Meerkat is going to remember every single conversation, every decision. It's bringing in intelligence from your networks. It's not just taking notes, but it's conducting real-time research in the moment, providing you with insights, ensuring follow through. And where we focused is really on SMBs, distributed teams, fast moving teams, founders, community leaders, accelerators, those types of organizations that might not be able to afford some of the other robust tools that come from big tech. So yes, there's others out there doing this, and we're all racing to get the technology ready as quickly as possible. And the other thing that's kind of really interesting is that we have a very small team at Meerkat. I call it 4 guys, a gal, and a cat. And I can say that because I'm the gal. But we don't have any big plans to hire, once we get our Series A, we're not going to go hire 50 or 100 people. We are going to work intelligently. Each one of us works with our Meerkat. We have a team Meerkat. We have a PR Meerkat. And the amount of work that we're doing and pushing through this agent is astounding. So there's lots of other companies that are out there rushing to move forward. We've got a few differentiators. And the biggest differentiator, I think now, Amy, is in some ways, because the tech is so easy to spin up for many, is the brand. It's the ability to execute and your distribution strategy. And so that's what I lead at Meerkat.
Fascinating. Okay. All right. So you also talked about joy. Can you talk more about that and how you envision bringing joy back into work?
That's such a great question. And it's something that's really important to myself and our founding team. The last 24 or 36 months, if you've been in tech, and even at the highest echelons of tech, it's been really difficult. There's lots of churn, there's layoffs, you said something about people worrying about losing their jobs to AI. And there's this sense that it's a zero-sum game, right? Where either the AI wins and it takes my job, or I can block the AI from coming into my company as long as I can, so I continue to learn and have my job. And what we want to do is think of it as a friendlier, more collaborative tool that's going to help humans have a better work and personal life. So that's one part of it. We want to move away from this concept of who wins, the AI wins or the human wins. I think we really win when we come together and take the best of what we all bring to the table. And in terms of the joy, meerkats are so fun. I don't know if did you ever see the show Meerkat Manor? It's on the Discovery Channel, I think. Okay, well, watch it. And it's so fun. It's a great palate cleanser if you've seen something intense and you want to end the evening with something fun. Well, meerkats are so cool. They have sort of tribes of 50 cats or so. They stake out a territory. They dig and they have their little burrows. They have a dominant female, a dominant male. They go out and do all the hunting. And while they hunt, the other cats babysit. And while they're hunting, they have the sentinels that watch. And they're very collaborative and they take care of each other. And we just love that concept. My co-founder, Ralph Schernbach, wrote this book called Relationships Matter. And he thought the meerkat was like the perfect example of how we look after each other in communities. So we want to bring that concept and those values into our technology. And then we are just really leaning into all the fun design elements that you can do with Meerkat. So if you go onto our website, you'll see, Mary Cat, you'll see Ralph Cat, and we have our characters and our personas. In my LinkedIn, you'll see me as a meerkat. And so we're just trying to have fun. We do motivational Mondays and final frame Fridays, and we want to bring some more happiness and joy back into the work life, particularly in what I think will be a fairly difficult time going forward.
Hey, quick break for a second. If you are a sales leader who is ready for your next step up, and I'm talking about leading other sales leaders, becoming a director, a VP, even a CRO, then this is for you. I'm hosting a free workshop. You can grab your spot at amyevanscoaching.com. This is for sales leaders who are in tech and are wanting to land jobs where you can earn anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year. And again, you can grab your spot at amyevanscoaching.com. Okay, back to the show. So I'm trying to imagine what it might be like to be out there in this fray of AI startups. And I'm curious to understand what the perspective is that you have as a woman who's a co-founder. I know we all are, we get all the media and the social media of these, younger founders. I mean, you have been doing fascinating work as a professional musician and forester and outreach and Mediafly and you've got great, phenomenal, well-rounded experience as an executive. And it just so happens that you're a female. What is that like to be in this moment as a female co-founder of an AI startup? What have you noticed about that?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question and so relevant. It's I'm actually loving it. I love the leadership piece. Honestly, I loved being a CEO. I love driving direction, product, strategy for the company. And I love getting people to follow me, whether that's internal folks or people outside in the marketplace. And so I love that. Now, I think it was last week, Time came out with a top 100 people in AI. I don't know if you saw that. It was really interesting. And it was all the usual suspects. I'm not going to list all the guys' names. Pope Leo was in there. I thought that was kind of interesting. So I've got to check that out.
I didn't know he'd started an AI company.
Well, who knows what he's doing back there in the Basilica. But anyway, I haven't had a chance to read the article. But the first thing I wanted to do was say, how many women are highlighted in this top 100 folks impacting the world of AI? And, certainly there were a couple, but not as many as you would want. I find I get frustrated, when all of the big tech folks are all guys, and these are guys that are making decisions that are going to impact primarily they're white guys or Asian guys that are going to impact all of us. Decisions that are much more impactful than what we even saw in the world of social media. And so that scares me that we don't have enough diverse voices at the highest echelons of big tech, whether those are female or other underrepresented folks. We just don't have that right now. There's so much homogeneity at the top seats where people are really deciding our futures. And so that scares me. The other side of that is I found such a warm reception from folks, whether that's potential investors, business partners, folks that are just really pumped to see a woman co-founding a company. And so that's what I'm feeding off of that positive energy.
Yeah. Well, what else can you do? Right.
Right. I mean, you can sit and cry in your coffee, but
there's a little element of like, there's nothing new here. I'm encouraged that there are even women on the list. And I know maybe that sounds like I set my expectation of excitement too low. 20 years ago, there were even fewer women. So I'm encouraged by the possibility of progress. And, maybe we could shoot a note to Mark Benioff, since he owns Time Magazine, and let him know that he needs to do a better job of seeking out who the founders are, so that there's a more accurate representation of the top 100, and maybe include not religious leaders that aren't actually leading companies. As much as there's love for the Pope. So, What if you for women who are maybe even, considering joining an AI company, or maybe they think they've got this amazing idea, what kind of advice would you give to someone who was, you know, noodling around on something, or wanting to join one of these companies? What would you suggest or say to the women who are listening right now?
Yes, I would tell these women to go get as smart as they absolutely can. One of the things, and I've been on a number of different podcasts and I do, give advice and career journeys and so on. The biggest piece of advice that I like to give is be responsible for your own professional journey and your own professional development. Don't wait for the CEO to come say, hey, why don't you go, do some coaching work with Amy, or HR to come say, we want you to be in this special program. Figure it out yourself. Don't be afraid to invest your own money. So there's so many courses that you can take out there. There's free courses in OpenAI. You can go to Coursera, Stanford, MIT, Booth, all have phenomenal courses designed for the C-suite and folks at different levels in the organization. Go out and get certified. I know it's probably costs a couple $1,000s, but it'll come back to you 10 times. So start to educate yourself, differentiate yourself, and get those certifications that give you more power as you enter into that room. I think the next thing would be seek out mentors, seek out other women or allies. I think allies are equally, if not more important than us, Amy, because what you want to do is have someone who's in the room when you're not in the room to speak for you, right? So find those folks and foster those relationships. It's just as rewarding for the person who's doing the mentoring as it is for the mentee. So it can be wonderful. And then I think the third piece is, join a community. I know you recently interviewed, I think it was Leslie from Wednesday's Women, right? So I'm a founding member there. Don't go it alone. It's, men have more opportunities to get together, whether it's in the golfing world, going to the games, and it's not to say we don't do all those things. Of course we do. But I think you need to be a little bit more intentional when you're a female leader or you have those aspirations to find a community so that you have a posse that's behind you that can tell you what's what when you don't want to hear it, that can lift you and elevate you when you need it, that can give you just good pragmatic advice. And to have people just to have some fun with, because we have to have fun at work. So those are some things. And then, just jump in the water and go for it. Don't sit on the sidelines.
Oh, there are so many good nuggets in there. Wow. Okay. I'm a big fan of all the things that you just said. Mentorship. I think we'd all be surprised at how many leaders out there really get to a point where they want to give back.
Yeah.
It happens, at different times for different leaders. But I kind of have noticed this pattern where leaders will get to somewhere, after they've been doing what they've been doing for 20 plus years or so. And then their interest begins to be extremely external. What kind of impact can I have? What kind of legacy can I leave? And their willingness to lift up others and do it in a selfless manner,
right,
really opens up for them, because they've gotten through the hard part of their career, if they've been raising families, whatever that is, and suddenly they've got that time to look around and say, what else can I do to help others learn the things that I had to learn the hard way and get there faster? That reach back is so powerful.
It's so powerful. And, when you're really trying to move up the chain and increase your earnings. And, as you said, you have a family, maybe you have mortgages, you've got external family responsibility. It's so hard. There's just not a lot of room for it. Once you reach the top that you can get for who you are, you don't want to just keep doing the same thing again. You do want to give back. And I find that it's so rewarding. I love to do it. And legacy and external impact and influence is what matters more than titles in economics at a certain point when you have some sort of financial freedom and have accomplished what you want. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Mm. So I'm curious to ask you this one. You talked about fun a few times at work, and I'll be the first one to confess that this was something that I actually struggled with as a leader.
Mm.
It didn't come naturally to me. Like, I loved my teams. I loved who they were as individuals. I loved who we were together. And I use that word love very deliberately and intentionally
Mhm.
because that is how I felt about it. But I wasn't the most fun member of the group. I was the one that was always like, all right, what are we going to do next? Like, let's get this project done, which makes me sound like a total taskmaster. And I probably was, but I had to outsource coming up with fun ideas to other people on my team because they were better at it. What, what have you noticed are some of the things that leaders can do that are easy, in case they have to be a little over rotate to seriousness,
Yeah.
like me?
Well, first of all, I'm a kindred spirit, so don't feel badly. And if we were to ask some of my direct reports 10 or 15 years ago how fun I was, we might get some different answers. So there's something, you mentioned that I've been doing this for a while, and there's something that comes with age and success where you just don't give a hoot anymore. And that's very freeing, right? Like, I mean, if I'm not having a good time or working with people that share values that are important to me, I'm just not going to do it. And so I think I've gotten a lot freer and a lot more fun as I've gotten older. When I was really focused on achieving, I was probably a pretty tough manager, a tough leader as well. And I am an introvert. So I wasn't always like, rah, rah, sis, boom, ba. I'd have to like draw on other folks. So one of the things that I always did was I hired people who were very complementary to my skill set, both my personal and professional skill set. And I would have a lot of people around me who could lift me up and take on certain aspects of lightening things up for the team and so on and so forth. So, you find a way. But look, we spend more time with our colleagues than we do with our families. So you've got to create an environment where people want to be together and feel like they're pursuing a common goal in a way that makes sense for them and their lives.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Well, I want to just, before we wrap, I've got one more question for you.
Okay.
And that is, I'd like you just thinking about your career and your journey, concert halls in Guadalajara, which is so amazing, to co-founding an AI company now and being a pioneer in that space. What leadership lesson do you wish you had learned sooner?
Wow. I think it almost kind of goes back to what we were just talking about. I was so serious and so driven as a woman in the C-suite 20, 30 years ago, I had to really prove myself every single day.
Yeah.
And so, the biggest lesson I think for me would be to, like dial back my intensity a little bit, be more holistic about work, have more fun, and, not take myself so seriously, perhaps. Like nobody's going to die on the operating table. We're not surgeons here. We're driving growth in business. And so let it go a little bit. I don't know if that sort of touches on what you're thinking about, but I took things pretty seriously.
I don't think you're alone. You're not alone there at all. I think that's quite common. It certainly was for me. Like, the intensity was real. It was, on one hand, it was one of the things that helped me succeed. On the other hand, it was like most strengths, it's also your greatest weakness at the same time. Yeah.
It is. And to dovetail onto that a little bit, to really answer your question for your listeners, I thought that my results were going to speak for themselves. What an idiot. That's like 101. You're going to be like, Mary, come do coaching with me. I literally did. I was like, put your head down, get those results. And I was damn good at getting results, but I didn't learn until much later that it's not all about results. It's about relationships. It's about who you want to be with on that 13-hour flight to Singapore. It's about having fun. It's about connecting with people. And so the biggest piece of advice I'd give some of your listeners who are on their upward trajectory is, don't discount the importance of networking, deep relationships, tangential relationships. Invest in those as much as you're investing in delivering your KPIs. And I was probably more focused on the KPI side. Had I not been, I probably could have done even much more. But, hopefully the next generation will take that and be a much more holistic leader than I was.
That is lovely. I don't have much else to add to that. So I want to give my listeners a chance to find you and Meerkat. Where can they connect with you and learn about Meerkat and maybe even follow along with the journey and buy something from you if they want?
Hey, we want to have fun, and commercial success provides more and more fun. So thank you for that opportunity. I'm super available. I respond to everybody on LinkedIn, so you can find me, Mary Shea, PhD, on LinkedIn. I am on Blue Sky, Dr. MES KAT, Cat, Dr. MES Cat on Blue Sky. Let's see, you can follow us on Meerkat. We have a company page there. So that's a great way to follow the journey. And then our website is trymeerkat.ai. And we're just about going into a beta test. And if any of your listeners want to join, they can go to the website, sign up, and I will personally reach out to them and onboard them. And they can actually start to use the tool and impact our product development if they are interested in that.
Oh, that's so exciting. That's awesome. Well, thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you. Mary, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing yourself, your vision, your philosophy, and just, bringing your full authentic self to this conversation today. It was such a joy to be with you. And I know that everybody who's listening today is going to get some great value out of our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Hey there. Thank you so much for joining today. I know you're a super generous person, and a gift that you could give to someone a friend, a colleague that you think would enjoy today's episode would be to send them a text, share a link to this episode with them. I do produce this show myself, and every time you share it, it helps the podcast grow and it supports the work that I do here. Also, if you happen to be a sales leader who is ready to take your next step up into a leader of leaders role, whether it's via promotion or you're ready to go get that new job at a new company, I'm talking about director roles, VP roles, even CRO roles in B2B tech, where you can earn $500,000 to $1 million or more. The workshop I'm giving is an hour-long workshop. It's totally free. You'll learn the process that I teach my clients on how to effectively position themselves, effectively network, and own their executive presence so they can land the job and get hired and promoted into these big sales leadership roles in B2B tech. If this sounds like you, come grab your spot. It's waiting for you at my website, amyevanscoaching.com, where you can unlock what's next for you.